Welcome to Bold Moves Radio. The show is Prudent Woman with myself, RHULANI BALOYI. We are excited to have you joining us and would like to appreciate all of you, those who are our followers, the prudent women who always join us every Sunday, 6 o'clock until 7 o'clock. If you are joining us for the first time tonight, you are welcome. The show is Prudent Woman, and would like to let you know that in this show, we talk on different aspects of life. Our objective in this show is to build each other as women, to be prudent women, women who are ready in and out of season, who know how to respond to issues of life. And tonight, as we continue during the month of September, a month which we are celebrating our heritage as a nation, a month in which we are talking as a nation on awareness on issues around cancer, cervical cancer to be specific. We continue tonight, we talk to our doctor. And again, you know, understanding that medical issues goes along with nutritional issues. We have tonight our sister, our resident dietitian, Sister MANDLA MABUNDA, our doctor, Dr. TIYISELANI. She was here last week. She has empowered us so much on cervical cancer. Tonight, she comes back and wants to talk to us about something that affects almost all the women, most especially the young ones. Young women, our youth from the age of 12, they are all affected on these conditions. We're talking tonight on endometriosis and fibroids. Most of the women, these are conditions that they've been struggling with at an early age. Sometimes they do not know how to identify of it. Sometimes they're advised otherwise. But at a later stage, when we become women who want to be fruitful, we find that these conditions becomes a hindrance for us in order to conceive, for us in order to be fruitful in our different areas. So tonight we have our lovely Dr. Tiyi. You are welcome. May you greet our audience.
So much, Sister RHULANI. I greet our audience, and I'm glad to be back again this week.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tiyi. As I said, we have our resident dietitian, Sister MANDLA MABUNDA. She's going to be talking to us today on these conditions, on how we can manage them, looking at the nutritional side of things. Says MANDLA, may you greet our listeners.
Good evening to everyone at home and those that are streaming live. And it's always a pleasure to be back here. So I'm looking forward to having a great time with you.
Thank you, Sis MANDLA. We'll never forget that we need to eat so that we can live. We should not live to eat. Thank you so much. And I think tonight you're going to be taking us through how we can eat so that we can manage these conditions, so that we can find a way of addressing some of these conditions, because food has got an impact on one's health, So it's very important. We appreciate you so much, your expertise that you always bring to the show. Dr. T, we talk endometriosis. In my language, as a Shangan, we call it Shilumi. I'm saying this so that our audience can understand when you talk endometriosis. Even myself, before I could approach you to talk about this diagnosis, I did not know what is endometriosis. How can you define it? What is it?
Okay. Thank you so much. Ishchangani, yes. We can easily say Shilumi, but endometriosis is a majority of cases or health conditions. Mm-hmm. It's known as a debilitating, a debilitating means it's a chronic condition. Let me start with the word chronic. Mm. It's a chronic condition that usually affects young girls, mainly from the age when they start with their menstruation. That is at puberty. Mm-hmm. Yes, because, as we're talking heritage, as much as we're talking heritage, we can say that menstruation, it's part of being of a woman's life. Yes. You get to a point where you have to see your period. Mm-hmm. And there are things that you are told that as long as you're seeing your period, you might feel pain. But then now it's the kind of pain that you feel that will make you get to actually something is wrong. And actually what endometriosis is, before we get to what actually is wrong, it's defined simply as endometriosis. It means, you know, a woman has a womb or a uterus. So there's a layer which is in the womb or the uterus, which is the middle layer, the same layer which sheds when we have our periods. It's the same one that instead of just being inside the womb, that layer, now you find it attached outside the body. So outside the body, it can be anywhere in the body. It's a multi-organ disease. It can attach in the ovaries, in the bladder, in the rectum, in the lungs. It can just go all over the body. When it actually in its own, it's supposed to be in the uterus or in the womb or inside the womb. Yes.
Okay. So is it right to think endometriosis is linked to your menstrual cycle?
It's right to say that, because most of the time where you will see that before you actually get the diagnosis of endometriosis, you'll have to have your period first. It means before you get your period, you wouldn't know that you have it. And usually even after menopause, it might not even affect you that much. But then the moment you start having your period, yes, when we're growing up, we are told that there are period pains or shilumi.
Yes.
But then because we tend not to describe what is period pain or what actually is supposed to be like, this period pain is something that I can tolerate, I can live with. With endometriosis now, the problem is it's that period pain that actually is debilitating to an extent that you cannot even do anything. You can't go to school. It affects not just you, it affects how you live. It takes over your life. You're chronically in pain. It may not just be during the time when you're having your period. Like I said, it doesn't only affect only it's not just on it's outside.
Yes.
So depending on where it is on the outside, it means as much as we say endometriosis and it's the same layer of the uterus which has attached itself elsewhere in the body, as much as you have your period, even those places, they will be bleeding. So those bleedings are the ones which causes scarring.
Okay.
And the scarrings are the ones which will cause pain. So pain will be there. But the main thing going back, it's us to understand that endometriosis, yes, you can only get to realize or know about it from the onset of menstruation. Yes.
You know, I read somewhere they said a girl child, it's actually being set back, you know, because a girl child, there's a study that they've done and say a girl child loses about 4 days a month in terms of productivity, more especially when they look at school going, because they are saying most girls, when they are at puberty, they tend to have this condition, which to me said, this is a very serious condition. And if it takes so much time, 4 days in a month, you are not productive. A girl child is not able to go to school. It means something must be done. And I know our government is doing a lot, trying to find ways, but I'm asking myself, what will be the cause of this condition? Is it something that one inherits? Or it's something that happens because of other things that we're exposed to?
With endometriosis, it's mainly hereditary. It's one of those conditions. If your mother had it, if your grandmother had it, it runs in families. It's usually hereditary. The cause itself in the medical fraternity, where research is being made, Research hasn't been found. It's just that the one thing that we tend to get is that endometriosis tend to be hereditary. So if I can say the cause might be, it depends on who's your mother or who's your grandmother, who do you come from? It comes from one generation to the other. And yes, it's true what you say, that it takes away 4 days, and it's not supposed to be like that. Yes, the uterus or the womb, you're supposed to shed blood like everybody else, but it's not all women or all girls, as long as they are seeing their period, who misses school. So those are some of the things that will make you, or as a girl child or as a young child, to say, you know, now this is something that I cannot just ignore. Something is wrong here. I need to have this checked. What is wrong with me? Normally, I'm supposed to have my period. It's a natural thing because I'm at this age. But this that comes with the menstruation needs to be addressed.
Dr. D, there's another condition that, you know, most of us, we get to hear about it lately, nowadays. They call it fibroids. Most women, most especially when they are at young adult, you know, they tend to be diagnosed with these fibroids. What are these fibroids and how related are they to endometriosis?
Okay, fibroids, like I said, let me just go back a bit to endometriosis. With endometriosis, I say the layer, which is the endometrium. Now, part of the layer, it goes outside. With fibroids, you just have a growth that now it's not anything going outside the womb. It's within the womb. There will be growth around the womb, on the sides of the womb or inside the womb, on the muscles of the womb. That's when there will be this growth, and this growth, they are sort of like tumor-like lesions that grows. And those are the ones which are called fibroids. So with fibroids, how it also presents is, there are people who have fibroids. Actually, when we talk about fibroids, we can say 80% of women do have fibroids or will have fibroids. They say they tend to see when they do an autopsy, maybe when a person has died. You find that during their life, they never complained of anything or they didn't know. But when they do autopsy or a postmortem, when they open the uterus or the womb, that's when they realize that actually this woman had fibroids, because fibroids can be asymptomatic. So the problem comes when now with the fibroids, they are symptomatic. Yes.
Yeah, because now you are not in a position to know whether you have them.
No.
So are they related to endometriosis, or they are definitely something that is not related?
I can say both these conditions, the relation that is there, it's the hormonal part of things. Because like I said, with endometriosis, you tend to discover it once you start seeing your period. So even with the fibroids, they are estrogen dependent. Estrogen is the hormone which, you know, for us to have our menstruation, and it has to be active in our body. So as much as they are estrogen dependent, that's the hormone or the hormones of growing up now as a young woman. That's what will make you now get to experience them. You may not experience them the same, but some of the symptoms, they tend to be almost the same. Like I said, with endometriosis, you find that the lesions, they grow outside of the womb. So with fibroids, these lesions, the growth or these tumors are in the womb. So with fibroids, if I'm to specifically talk on the fibroids, it's more the pressure symptoms, because the womb itself, how it's situated, the womb, it's in between the bladder, which is in front, it's also between the rectum, which is at the back. So those are the two body parts which tends to be pressurized by this growth which are growing. For the bladder, you find that you cannot keep your urine. For the rectum, you might suffer with constipation.
Okay.
You know, and even the bleeding, the bleeding itself, you know that we biologically we're told that menstruation has to last you from around 4 days to 7 days. But then yours, now it's heavy. It's heavy bleeding. It's excessive bleeding. It's not the normal one that you were told that you will start on a Monday and then by Thursday you're done. But then it continues the whole week. And it's not just about only the days, it's also about the amount. Also the amount, in a sense that some people, when they're having their periods, they will tell you that I only change my pad twice or 3 times a day. But someone who has to change every 2 hours, then that is heavy bleeding. There's a problem.
Okay.
Yes.
So those will be the symptoms of endometriosis.
Of fibroids.
Of fibroids.
Yes.
And then endometriosis will be the heavy bleeding.
Both of them, they do present the same.
Okay.
It's just that with endometriosis, it's more the pain. So like I said, with endometriosis, this tissue will grow on the other organs.
Yes.
So if you have it on your ovaries, it means when you ovulate, you might feel pain. If you have it in your chest, you might feel chest pain. If you have it in your bladder, you might feel an irritation in the bladder. But then the main thing with endometriosis, it's debilitating pain. And this debilitating pain, usually, yes, it can happen during your menstruation. But for some people, depending on the stage also, it can be pain which is throughout.
So it happens anytime.
It happens
I'm asking this question, Doctor, understanding that our audience tonight, we also have the young women who have joined us, those who have just started menstruation. And I'm inviting you, those of you who are listening, who are parents, elder sisters, if your young ones are there, please let them join us so that they can understand. Because some of these things, I mean, I was once a young person. Some of these things, most especially when it involves your reproductive organs, it's not simple to approach your parents to ask, but it's simpler for you to talk to someone, an outsider, to understand, because at times you feel like if I ask my parents, maybe they will think I'm doing something, I'm being naughty, you know. So, Doctor, I'm just wanting to know, for a young girl who's listening to us tonight, is there any pain they're supposed to experience when they're going through their menstrual cycle, which is normal, which cannot be identified as endometriosis?
I think how I can answer it and how I can approach it is that it depends on who gave you the talk. When we give girls talk about menstruation, we must tell them that it's shedding of the endometrium. And the shedding, it means as it shed, there will be discomfort.
Yes.
There might be discomfort because it sheds. But now what will make a difference, it's the pain aspect. Unfortunately, we grew up knowing that kuna shilumi, and we accepted that a woman must just have shilumi. And actually, come to think of it, we're not supposed to have shilumi. What is shilumi? In the medical fraternity, shilumi and shilumi, which actually disturbs your life. It's the one that if it can be checked, that's when it can be found that actually it is endometriosis. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, Doctor. You know, because it's unfortunate, we're talking at the background of Heritage Month. I would like to believe back then when they said a woman is of age and they took you for Vukomba and all that, they were talking on these things. And unfortunately, that has been replaced. And I ask myself, what have we replaced it with? Are we having sessions where we are able to empower our young children, our young ones, to know how their bodies is supposed to develop, or we have left that to the internet. And that's something very important. I know our government through the education system, they're trying to come up with programs, but it's still the responsibility of you as a mother, you as a parent, to train your children. Because I ask myself, with these two conditions, doctor, if they are detected early in life, if I get to be aware of these conditions, is there something that can be done? Or it's something that it doesn't matter when they are detected, it's just that it's there?
Fortunately, if these conditions were not seen as is just a period pain and gets ignored, when we talk about endometriosis, they say it can take up to 10 years until it can be diagnosed. Because even when you go to your ordinary GPs or you tell your parent that I'm in pain, they will tell you that no, that comes with menstruation. When you're menstruating, you're supposed to have pain. You know, but if they had taken care of you when you said something is wrong, yes, I understand when you say pain, but this one, I'm in pain. Yes. So actually they will take you at an early age and have you consult. You'll go to a gynae, you'll go to a GP, you'll go to any health care provider who actually will get to ask you even other questions, because it's not really about just the bleeding itself. There may be other questions that are there around that you will say, yes, the pain, you feel it more when you're having your period, but there are other things like the constipation, you know, the other things when you ovulate, you feel pain. Those are the other things that you will say, but now I know before I could have my period, 2 weeks before that, I was in so much pain, but I wasn't having my period. Now I'm having my period. Or even the way I have the period, it's the severity. Yes. So when you think it's normal or no one actually talks to you about it, you just think it's normal and you leave. You live with the pain. And unfortunately, the more you live with the pain, it grows. Yeah. It's like any other disease, it grows. It doesn't mean it starts at that point and it stops at that point. The more you'll be having your period, then it will grow. Yes.
I know that amongst our audience, we have male doctor, and I understand you've been saying this condition, we've been talking about these conditions around girls, but I want to know for the benefit of our audience, can these conditions affect men? For instance, the fibroids. Can a man be told that you've got fibroids, or it's only with women?
It's only with women. It can never.
They can never.
It can never.
So we appreciate you men who are here, and we understand you want to get the knowledge so that you can help your sisters, you can help your mothers, you can help your children as well, because knowledge is power. When we're informed, you are able, because when your loved one is sick, it's not about being a woman or a man, but someone in the family is not well. So it's very important to be empowered on these things. Doctor, on the issue of age, I understand with endometriosis, probably it's, you said you'll start having it, more especially when you reach your stage of puberty, yes, when you go for menstruation. But what about endometriosis, which is the age group that is more at risk of these fibroids?
Okay, with endometriosis, like, yes, you said it correctly. It's usually around the age of puberty. Even with fibroids in the initial stage of some people, that's why I had to say that, you know, there are people who 80% of women, they do have fibroids. It's because they tend to be asymptomatic. Okay. So the fibroids, you may find that a woman is living with fibroids or lived the rest of their lives with fibroids, but because they had no symptoms, they had no heavy bleeding, they had no pressure symptoms, they had no constipation, they just lived their life. They had normal pregnancy, they delivered well, or maybe Actually, with fibroids, it can just be found incidentally. When I say incidentally, it can be because, you know, one thing that we don't normally do is an ultrasound. You wouldn't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to the doctor to just do an ultrasound. The first time you go for an ultrasound is when you're pregnant.
Yes.
And when they do that ultrasound when you're pregnant, that's when they will discover that actually you do have fibroids.
Okay.
Unless if you actually had problems before. Because if you had problems before, like the heavy bleeding, the pressure on the bladder, the pressure on the rectum, you probably have complained, and from the complaint, you actually went to the doctor. And the only thing is, after doing physical examination, they can physically examine you and also do an ultrasound. When they do an ultrasound, that's when they can pick it up that, yes, you do have fibroids.
Oh, you know, when it comes to fibroids, it's something that it seems like it's just something that came today, you know. It's so surprising because back then we did not know about it. So I asked myself, what makes it to be common in today's life?
This is not really research based, but I think another thing that makes it common, it's also, you know, it's one of those things. If you were to ask me who is at risk of having fibroids, I would say women who takes time before getting pregnant. You know, it means actually menstruation. What menstruation is, it just telling you or your body is telling you that I'm ready to conceive. But if you're gonna delay conception, you know, if you delay conception, because most of the people who have fibroids are people who delay having their first child. Or actually even delay having their menopause, as much as is hereditary, which means from the family you had, your mother had it, your grandparent from your mother's side had it, you know. So what happens is now with fibroids, for it to be detected, as much as the sauna needs to be done, it's only after you have complained about it that there's a problem. If only it was easy that we say, as long as you start your period, go and have it checked. You may find that even from the age of 12, when a child started having their period, they were having fibroids. Because there are some people who will have fibroids from the age of 12 until maybe they die at the age of 90. They have fibroids, but they never really give them problems. Because why? The other thing might be the moment you get pregnant, it's hormone based. The one hormone which is implicated in both this condition is estrogen. When you are pregnant, the levels are low. So even these fibroids, they don't grow. So if you are a woman, a young woman now, another thing that I wanted to come back to, you know, we are at an era where we go to school, we want to finish our schooling, and then after that we get married and then we have children, as opposed to in the olden areas. In the olden areas with our mothers and our grandmothers, the moment you start seeing your period, you get married off. So maybe that's another thing. You find that it was there, but then with them, it wasn't as severe as with us. Because with us, we spend 7 years, like I spent 7 years in medical school. The whole time when I'm in medical school, even if I feel pain, pregnancy, it's not a priority. Yes, it's not a priority for me. A priority is for me to finish, get a degree and start working, have money, then I can be pregnant.
You're bringing another angle that, you know, I know it's challenging, because the way we are living today, our priorities are no longer the same as the way it was previously. And most especially in our setup, as a child of God, we believe one should, you know, finish school, start dating, have time, and then now you have a child. And you rightfully say it. In the olden days, once a child reaches puberty, married off, then ukumaban. And when you start checking backwards, you realize that our grannies, even though we don't really know much of their age, because most of them, they were guessing when they go to home affairs. But when you try to calculate and look at their age, you realize it's like they got children when they were 15, 16, you know? And I think even though you're saying it has not been researched, maybe this is something that needs to be researched. And we need to put things differently. This is something that someone needs to take it serious, because it's causing a lot of problems, you know. It's discouraging a lot of our young adults, because most of them, they carry themselves well, go to school, no boyfriend, abstain, live a righteous life. And at the end, they tend to blame God when now they are told you've got fibroids, you will have challenges in terms of conception. So it's so challenging, you know. We need to find a way. I'm glad we're having this talk, and I hope someone is listening who has got capacity to undergo this type of research, because this is information that we need to know. There is nothing, there's no solution in a society except within us. God has given us this knowledge so that we can be able to find solutions. And it's a big challenge. I want now to invite Sis Mandla. We've been talking on the medical side of these conditions.
Yes.
What causes these conditions? But we have agreed, and we agree within this platform, Prudent Women, to say nutrition is very important in terms of one's health. Says Mandla, having listened to our good doctor tonight, having spoken on these two conditions, what will you say in addition to what she was saying medically? In terms of nutrition, will you say there are things that causes or adds towards this type of conditions?
Okay, Inko Mosesi, I think maybe let's backtrack a bit. You know, we always talk about how we need to eat to live and not live to eat. So in essence, what we are saying there is that nutrition becomes the cornerstone of our health. Whatever we eat eventually has an impact of the conditions that we are going to suffer with. So everything comes back to how our health is, and it starts from the gut, and it starts from the food that we are eating. So kuna a study, I want to share with you a study leshinga endliwa yiva National Health Institute Research Council. Balaba kutwisisa ku what is the impact of nutrition on gynecological conditions, the condition that they So they did a study where they had two groups of women, and they followed them for a number of years, where they checked their dietary habits, and they also analyze and okay. So the first group, they checked that, okay, those who were eating balanced diet, meaning diets that gave you enough carbohydrates, protein, fats, vitamins, and minerals. Remember those 4 food groups that we once spoke about. If you were eating that from childbearing age, lokubaba lanzelela over the years, checking those symptoms against the conditions that they bakumeku. Those who were observing a healthy lifestyle, balanced dietary lifestyle from the beginning, they were less likely to present with the symptoms that the conditions that they On the other hand, people lava abanga observing a healthy dietary lifestyle, bakumeku, they were most likely to be affected by the conditions that they So it shows us clearly the role that nutrition plays on our overall health, by the way, not only our gynecological health, it's just that today, blah, blah, the condition did the work. So another study then suggested, okay, so if nutrition plays a big role, are we able to influence the outcome of the conditions led when a woman is already affected? So they came up with 3 ways, excuse me, where nutrition is very critical. In the prevention, excuse me, in the prevention, that's where I spoke about dietary habits from when a child reaches childbearing stage. So if we correct what we are eating, if we start teaching our children to eat to live right at that age, some of these conditions. Number 2, in the management of the symptoms that someone is presenting with, is nutrition able to come up with a role there? Of course, we know ginger, for example, when someone is experiencing those cramps and the nausea and the bloating and the what, if you boil ginger, uteka, consistently over these symptoms, you're able to find some sort of relief. Okay. Also, they did a study where they supplemented a group of people, women, who were presenting with the symptoms for these conditions. After a period of time, those people were reporting less and less symptoms whenever they were going through their menstrual cycles. So again, this is proof to show that vitamin and mineral supplementation has got a positive impact on these conditions that we are talking about. And then correction, are we able to solve the issue the fibroids? Are we all able to do that? Are we able to solve issue Shilumina? This is still an area that has ongoing research attached to it. There are no conclusive studies as yet, but research will continue. Like I heard you mentioning it, linking it to Heritage Month. So Mina, my mother, Mozambique. My sister, you know, she's also part of our team, Dr. Mkateko, presented a lot of severe menstrual pains when she started. And I know some Labla Shaye, but yes, she had a lot of cramps when she would literally for 3 days have to lie on a cold cement floor for her to feel like, okay, Shantranyana. And then my mother, being from Mozambique, what she came back home with one day, inkaka, anistu kunkaka, the biological term, shilungu ini, inkaka, bafkaba ubirisa, bangwendela tia, and she would always take that inkaka luyani during the times, during her menstrual cycle. Tell you what, Dr. Mkateko now does not have shilumi. So like I'm saying, nutrition plays a very big role in prevention, in management of the symptoms, and in the curative part. It's just that one, akuna conclusive evidence, except for my personal experience with a nutritional food. And no, when you have this thing, unashulumi abateka nshanyadzi, would chew on that and also give the doctor. And those things, she would experience like real life results, like she would not have pains or it would not be as severe. So I agree with you that we need to invest more capacity and research into these things, because we might just find that we do have solutions even in our backyard, and we can also avoid this thing of our young ladies. Now, I mean, it pains me to hear you saying, here's a child, a girl child who swore or became committed to serving Christ from a young age, all penned out for her, and then now she saved herself for marriage, and only to find that now you're having an issue that you cannot give birth because of this thing. So it's not all doom. we can use nutrition as a very critical part in our overall health, because like we always say, we need to eat to live and not live to eat. Because if we have that mentality, now you are conscious, you're intentional, or what am I eating? And if I eat this thing, what am I getting from it? So yes, indeed, nutrition and dietary habits have got a very key role to play in any gynecological condition.
Sis Mandla, thank you so much. You've brought in an angle that it's very important for us to be able to see how the nutrition can play a part in all these conditions. And I would like to believe, Doctor, probably this is an answer to what I asked, to say, why is it like it's nowadays, because previously we did not hear about these things. And I would like to believe it's because of this nkaka. Even myself, I don't know what is nkaka, but I know. And what is surprising, now that you are talking, like you are saying this, Sesimkate, I realized something. I was raised by my grandmother. I did not like miroho ya kuba na nkaka, but she will force everyone to eat it. It was not a choice. My best was miroho yo kanderiwa inga cheriwangi nkaka. So if I'm to cook, I will want to do it like that. And she will say everyone has to eat nkaka. And later I also find out nkaka also helps with blood blood pressure, all these things. So we start to realize that some of these things that we have adopted along the way causes problems, because, we are eating a lot of processed food.
Yeah.
And it's because we thought it's best because it's expensive, and forgetting, you like saying something, Sesimkateko, to say, these foods, they are marketed because the inventors are looking for ways to make money. It's not about our nutrition. That's not their interest. And I heard you talking about the National Health Research Council. Maybe if we can, with Prudent, able to go and read on these studies. We can never have enough, but let us read, ladies. Let us empower ourselves. We cannot keep these conditions be pinned down. If Mandla is on one Sis Mandla, can you hear us? Yes. I was asking in terms of eggs, what would be the nutritional makeup of eggs that makes us to say it tends to make young girls go for menstruation early and increases the chances of all these conditions on them?
Okay. I suggest maybe we handle it this way. Maybe what we need to focus on, because in nutrition we say everything in moderation. I want to steer clear from now someone going home and stopping giving eggs to their girl children because matandaya enter 1, 2, 3. There was logic in that because manat the high cholesterol and all, but I rather we focus on what we need to do to make sure that we prevent, we manage, and possibly in the future come up with some cures. So I love learning the fruits and vegetables, which plays a very big role because they are the key ones that provide us with vitamins and minerals. So what do vitamins and minerals do in general, in all our overall health? So they provide protective functions, especially makeup reproductive organs. Number one, cell growth. We need to have vitamins for your uterus, your womb, whatever, the tube, the develop cell growth and development. Number two, we need to repair that. You need vitamins to go in and repair your structure. So you will need to eat a very good amount or variety of the fruits and vegetables for you to get those kind of protective agents. Okay, so number two, protein, of which eggs fall under. Protein repair our muscles, muscle growth and repair interwa protein walo. So namatanda ya laveka even milk diet yangwana because her muscles still they need to be repaired and they still need to grow. So we don't cut that out. But a lot of a good thing becomes a problem. That is why we're talking about everything in moderation. And that is where the role of a nutritionist or a dietitian comes in. Because what they do is when you visit them, they take a diet history of what you're currently having, family history, the doctor family history, family history, and then coupled with that, plan which is specific to your needs, because that's another thing. It's not a one size fits all kind of a blanket approach. Mara you sit one-on-one, you go with what you're currently eating, you take care of the background, and then with that, you come up with a plan. So namatanda says sibana abanyikiwe matanda mara banganyikiwe matanda motala bangatsoni ubana. It's part of a healthy, balanced diet. Yes. So supplementation, ideally, when it comes to food, we were all supposed to eat from our earth. All these things. However, our lives today, so for whatever reasons, let's not even go into that. Your reasons might not be my reasons. So Mara, what we need to be careful of, always when you go out, you are confronted with 1 million products on a shelf of a store. What you need to do is to read, especially what is at the back of a product, which is called a nutritional table. So, what are you eating and why are you eating that? If my product tells you, I'm giving you 50 grams of protein, why do you need 50 grams of protein? You understand? The challenge of which in hindsight could actually be contributing to these problems that we are sitting with today here is that we do not also read. So you know, this product does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But now when you go there, you don't check and you personalize the product to what you currently need. There are people who are deficient in whatever, in vitamin A, but some people are not deficient in vitamin A. You need to know what your issue is, you see, before you buy a product. So the products, they also have a space when you are not able to get directly from the earth. So you check whether it was chemical processing, biological processing, all these things. Yes, all the food that we eat is processed. So hi nga ti bayizisi ku ingaku a ku na hinkwaswo swakudya leswi hi dyaka at some point or the other swi ku na process yo karhi during production hi yo process mara you check ku process wa ku karhi ku endliwa yini and wena why are you looking at eating
Those
that
things.
as your thing? If you are trying to supplement your vitamins and minerals, of which is it's one food group that a lot of us are deficient in because we don't know. I eating for the fruits and vegetables at every meal every day. You're supposed to have about 3 to 4 servings of fruit and vegetables, and we don't do that. So if you are aware, Gurumina, in my life, this is my challenge, then you go and you look for a product that is going to what? To supplement. Hence we say supplement is to add on what you are currently having. In that way, you are able to do what? Do proper gut repair, start afresh. Logo uja, the vitamins that way get absorbed nicely into the bloodstream and they go from the top of your head to the bottom of your foot. Remember, everywhere where blood goes, your vitamins and minerals, including all other nutrients, they go there too. And when they go there, they go and do the function that they are meant to do, whether it's cell growth, whether it's cell repair, whether it's to enhance whatever is there, or maybe to supplement on the deficiencies that you might have. Mara shakudya in general plays a very key role.
Yes.
Including eggs.
So, from what you're saying, I see the importance of nutrition in prevention, treatment, and management of these conditions. I see we don't have enough time, but I just want to ask our doctor, what will be the treatment medically that one has to undergo for both endometriosis and fibroids?
Okay. I think before I go to the treatment, I will add on what our dietitian was saying. Actually, it's very true. Both this condition, the element of diet is very important. Where they will mention things like your dairy, your processed food, your gluten. Those are the things which have an impact. An impact like, in endometriosis, there's what we call a flare-up time. A flare-up time is a time where the symptoms are just very severe. You may find that you just had caffeine or a piece of cake. It will cause a flare-up.
Okay.
When we talk about the fibroids, it's one condition which actually the body weight has an impact. They will say usually it's people who are big. I don't want to say fat. Yes. I think it's offensive. People who are big. So the body mass index also has an impact. So that also goes back to what? Nutrition. To the nutrition. Yes. The medical treatment, if I start with the endometriosis, like I say, it's good for it to be found early. If it's found early, before we can treat it, it means how do we find it? Unfortunately, with endometriosis, the only way to find it, it's not something that can be found through a sauna. It can just be from the symptoms that the person presents with. So the only way that doctors or gynecists, because it's a gynecological case, yes, that will be able to diagnose it, they will have to do what they call a laparoscopy. Okay. When they do a laparoscopy, they just make a small hole around your umbilicus, and then they do it under general anesthesia, and they use a torch. Okay. Because now they are looking for these lesions. They know how they look, these lesions, because these lesions is lesions which were supposed to be within their womb, but now they are outside. So they look for those lesions. They would look for those lesions and then they will have to remove them. So that's the treatment. That's the surgical treatment of it. Another treatment which is there also for the endometriosis is the medical treatment, where they use things like birth control medication, because like I say, it's to do with menstruation. The one treatment that they tend to use medically, it can just be giving you contraceptives, because what these contraceptives will do will stop the ovulation. Yes. Because if you are not ovulating, it means you're not going to have your period. Then the bleeding will not happen. If the bleeding will not happen, the scarring that happens and the pain that comes from the scarring will not happen. Yes. So that's just on the endometriosis. When we come to the fibroids, with the fibroids, luckily we do have a way to find or get it, which is usually the first thing, it's a pelvic ultrasound. It means after the symptoms that one has presented with, if you go to a doctor or a gynae and they do an ultrasound, they will see the fibroids, because they are able to look at the womb or the uterus, and they can see this growth around. And also the treatment, it will depend on whether, you know, what is it that it makes you, because like I said, it can be asymptomatic, or you might have it, or it's not actually causing you a problem. We spoke about a girl child who maybe you grew well at 26 or 25 when you want to have a child, you're struggling to have a child, and then you present with infertility, and then you start going to doctors to find out, why am I infertile? Yes. And then they may actually do the ultrasound, and that might actually, when we talk about both these conditions, but mainly on the fibroids, that you find that depending on where it grows, it might be where it is, it has actually blocked the passage of the sperm. So if it has blocked the passage of the sperm, it means even you cannot conceive. Yes. So the treatment can also, even with the fibroids, can be medically. With the medically, it's still the same thing, the birth control. And also, if it's not really about the birth control, they can also give you medications which even helps with the bleeding, because bleeding on its own, mainly with fibroids, people who fibroids, they can just present with anemia. Anemia is when someone comes because their blood is low. So on checking that, why is your blood low? Someone just had a period last week and they bled too much, and now their blood is low. So they have to be given blood. So because of those things, when it gives things like anemia, there's drugs that can be given which will reduce even the amount of blood. Okay. So the birth control, those medication will help with that. But there's also a surgical management. With the surgical management, usually it's not one size fits all. Even for both conditions, it's never one size fits all. Because the surgical management, it depends on the symptoms or the things that you feel. You know, if you went to a doctor because you felt you are trying for a baby and you can't get pregnant, and they say, unfortunately, it's because there's a fibroid where it's blocking your tubes, then we need to remove it. Then surgically, it will have to be removed, you know. But if it's just a young child or a young person who, or not even a young child, but a mother who maybe has already delivered all her children, but then she's still seeing her period because she hasn't reached menopause, then she can just use what? The birth control medication. Okay. Or actually even surgery, where they actually even have to remove the womb itself. Okay. But this one, it's only for women who have completed their family. If you haven't completed your family, removing your womb, it's never a treatment for either endometriosis, and it's never treatment for the fibroids. Yes.
We'll never have enough time to talk and be empowered. But this evening, our listeners, our viewers, allow me to say we have to end here. But I trust that you have been enlightened on the topic, you will be able to go and seek more. But before we part ways, I would like our guests to say bye. They are parting shots, but I want to also remind you, Ceci MANDLA, she's from Masana Dietitians. She has got products that have got nutritional supplements for everyone, from as little as young children. You have seen those who are watching us on Facebook and YouTube. Her products were being flighted. You can contact us. We'll give you the details. She also is looking for distributors. And our doctor, it's a doctor who's practicing here, right here in Polokwane. She's with the provincial hospital here in Polokwane. And you are welcome to engage with them to seek more information. I would like to invite them to say bye to you as we end our talk. I'll start with Sis MANDLA. Sis MANDLA, any parting shots that you like to leave the audience with?
Thank you, Sissy. It's always nice learning during this show. My parting shots today is to remind everyone, let's be kind to ourselves. Let's be kind to our body. Let's eat to live and not live to eat. And as far as the conditions we're talking about, let's try and eat a very balanced, healthy diet with more fruits and vegetables. If you're not able to do that, try supplementation as well. Also try ginger to help with some of the symptoms that you might be having. And then also look out for your trigger foods. Like the doctor said, look out for the foods that you know whenever you have this during your menstrual cycle, there's a flare up. These are commonly found in caffeine foods, like the coffee, the chocolate, also high sugar foods, also high fat food. You realize that is mainly junk food. So always be on the lookout for those things so that you know whenever you're going through that circle, then you avoid those kind of things. Alcohol and these two conditions are just a no-no. They will give you it will give you a lot of problems. So also stay clear of alcohol and always drink a lot of water. Water does not contain any nutrients, by the way. Water is used for washing. Literally, we need water to go and wash our blood so that we can remove a lot of impurities that is there. So always drink a lot of water. And in those few words, Nirina Cancer, let's eat to live until next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sis MANDLA, our good doctor.
Okay. For me, I think the take-home message should start with to our young girls and our mothers. You know, I think something that makes all these conditions to grow, it's the talking. We grew up, yes, we are in a different era, but it's important for us to talk.
Yes.
And when a child comes and says, Mama, I'm feeling this, don't just ignore it. There's nothing wrong with having it checked so that at least you know there's a problem or there's no problem. Like I said, with endometriosis, it can take up to 7 years. It can take up to 10 years. It's because the whole time someone will be crying of pain, but because once they are kondeleli,
it's how it is.
Ukondelela until maybe it presents with infertility. That's when now you see actually so let's always look for help. Yes.
Thank you so much to both our guests, and thank you to all of you who have been with us throughout the show. I trust that you have been empowered. I have been empowered, and I'll go out and change other people's lives as well as my family. There is no way that we will sit and say it's how it is, but you go out and seek help. And of course, says MANDLA, we shall eat to live, not to live to eat. Thank you so much. Have a blessed week. We shall meet again next week, same time.